The next-generation virtual reality game Desperate Hellfire is introduced.
In this world, players control powerful avatars called magic deities. This realm serves as a brutal fantasy wargame.
One legendary king crushed every opponent with no weapons.
He fought using only his bare fists. This formidable warrior was known as the Demon King.
He withstands a massive magical blast without flinching.
The Demon King demonstrates extraordinary combat abilities against his foes.
A blinding surge of energy erupts across the battlefield. The armored king leaps through a chaotic magical storm. He ruthlessly overwhelms a hooded sorcerer with sheer force.
A close-up reveals his lethal armored claws.
He slams an enemy into the ground.
Every player in the game fears his name.
The Demon King stands victorious over his fallen enemies.
The scene shifts to a quiet school building.
Students chat amongst themselves in a bright classroom.
A blue-haired boy named Rushima Narimitsu packs his bag.
Suddenly, a large hand slams onto his desk, startling him.
A blonde boy named Kishimura Senji expresses his extreme morning irritation.
Narimitsu offers a forced, nervous smile to his bully.
Kishimura violently kicks the boy's back across the room.
He grabs Narimitsu by the collar and aggressively demands a better response. Kishimura throws him to the floor while venting his anger. The blonde bully orders his lackey to hand him a bucket.
A chilling thought notes that Kishimura is terrifying when snapped.
Kishimura prepares to dump a bucket of water for stress relief.
Narimitsu begs him to stop as the water falls.
A heavy splash sounds as Narimitsu is completely drenched.
The wet boy clenches his fist and groans in frustration.
Narimitsu wonders why he is always the chosen victim.
Kishimura glares down at him with pure contempt. The drenched boy tries to stammer a reply to his tormentors.
Kishimura leans in and smugly dismisses the boy's feelings.
A final, ominous question lingers in the air.
Narimitsu reflects on his inability to fight back against violence. He lies groaning in pain on the classroom floor. Two of Kishimura's lackeys roughly pull Narimitsu to his feet. Kishimura delivers a brutal punch directly to the boy's stomach.
Narimitsu lies curled in a ball, contrasting his reality with the game.
It is revealed that this bully boy is the Demon King.
He trudges home with bandages on his face, lamenting his reality.
His sister welcomes him home before stopping in pure shock.
She frantically asks what happened to his battered face.
Narimitsu forces a pained smile to hide the truth grimmer.
He reflects on the many small lies he tells his family.
Lying alone on his bed, he admits he is miserable.
He reaches for his VR headset, seeking a world he can control.
Narimitsu begins the login sequence for Desperate Hellfire.
He enters the digital world, wishing reality were the same.
Narimitsu begins his digital descent. He suddenly clutches his head, gasping in agony as a sharp pain strikes. A red system warning alerts him to an abnormal physical condition detected during the login.
Blinding static and electric shocks overwhelm his senses, plunging him into a state of intense vertigo.
He desperately wonders if the brutal beating from Kishimura earlier caused this neurological collapse.
He awakens on a stretcher, surrounded by concerned medical staff as he is rushed through a facility. Staring into the void, the bandaged boy fears his miserable life is coming to a premature end. He regrets his past passivity, wishing he had fought back to avoid this pathetic fate.
His eyes flicker with a strange orange glow as he contemplates his own hidden strength.
Somewhere in the darkness, mysterious voices confirm he is the right subject and authorize a special treatment.
The unknown entities designate him as Experimental Subject RN, praying for a successful result from their trial.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds.
Narimitsu bolts upright in his hospital bed, his heart racing from the sudden wakefulness.
He examines his hands in disbelief, realizing the expected pain and injuries have completely vanished.
Seeing his sister Yuko's bag, he feels a pang of guilt for the worry he caused her.
A look of quiet surprise. A medical professional enters, explaining that despite their extensive tests, they couldn't find anything wrong with him.
Narimitsu is baffled by the clean bill of health despite the agony he felt.
He remains convinced that those intense, violent symptoms were far from normal occurrences.
The doctor reiterates the strange absence of any physical abnormalities in his scan. He eventually returns to school, standing in the hallway with a heavy heart.
He recalls how difficult it was to console Yuka while she sobbed over his injuries.
The siblings shared a tender hug.
Determined to stop worrying his family, he returned to classes that afternoon, only to find trouble waiting.
A pensive walk through the hallway.
Kishimura and his cronies intercept him, the bully smugly noting his late arrival for school. Kishimura declares he was getting bored without his favorite punching bag around to torment.
Narimitsu's eyes widen in alarm.
As the bully lunges, Narimitsu's body reacts with an impossible, blurred speed he's never felt before.
Kishimura is stunned by the sudden, effortless evasion of his target. Infuriated, the spiky-haired lackey charges for it, screaming at him to stop dodging like a coward. Narimitsu counters with a precision strike that leaves his attacker gasping in shock.
He is astonished to realize he can clearly see every enemy movement in slow motion.
He demands the bully back off, his body moving with a destructive grace that surprises even himself.
He ducks under another wild swing, his movements fluid and calculated.
Narimitsu delivers a crushing blow, marveling at how his body is moving entirely on its own.
An aura of phantom fire. Kishimura's twists in rage.
The blonde bully screams Narimitsu's name, launching himself into a desperate final assault. Narimitsu ducks the blow with a smirk, feeling the Demon King's power manifesting in his reality.
Kishimura is left reeling, shouting in confusion at the boy's sudden transformation. Standing tall, Narimitsu radiates an overwhelming heat as his true power finally begins to surface.
The sight of his terrifying new presence sends the bullies stumbling back in pure, unadulterated fear. A heavy splash sounds as the bully falls, doused and defeated, while a witness checks on the chaos.
Clenching his fist, the boy notes the lingering sting, realizing this newfound power is no dream.
Later in class, he remains deep in thought about the afternoon's strange events. He focuses on the specific sensation he felt while overpowering his tormentors. He realizes that the combat instincts he used were identical to his movements as the Demon King. It puzzles him as he knows he possesses absolutely no athletic ability or motor skills.
He stares at his notes, wondering if the excruciating headache from yesterday fundamentally changed his reality.
He realizes he can move like the Demon King.
He dismisses the idea as a manga plot.
He fails to find a logical explanation.
Kishimura punches a wall, refusing to let this go.
His nervous lackeys tremble in fear. The bully seethes as his allies watch. A blonde man mocks the defeated bully's pathetic state. The man addresses the blonde boy as Senji.
A sudden, heavy sounds as a punch lands.
The leader lectures his juniors on protecting his reputation.
He demands to know who attacked his soldier.
Kishimura identifies Rushima Naramitsu as the culprit.
The cruel leader vows to kill Dern.
Later in class, a popular girl approaches Narimitsu.
Momozaki praises him for defeating the Gerbrillier.
She excitedly mimics his combat movements with a swoosh.
She mentions seeing the fight from Holler.
He notes she is the most popular girl. She reflects on how no one could stop them.
He is happy she is talking to him.
He dismisses the fight as a fluke under pressure.
He notes Kishimura's absence until after school.
She insists it didn't look like luck.
She asks to walk home with him.
He is shocked by her request for conversation. He warns himself against having any misunderstandings.
He believes she has no ulterior motives. He recalls being the victim of violence. He reflects on his low social status. Momozaki reaches out her mandam. They walk outside together while others watch. A menacing blonde man intercepts their path.
Naramitsu is terrified to see Kishimura's return.
The leader steps forward to identify Stardate.
He dismissively labels the boy a small fry. The notorious Tsutomu Okise stands before them.
He is the leader of the school's delinquents.
A heavy, dark presence looms over them.
He claims Narimitsu's victory made his gang look soft.
He promises a reward for the boy's actions. The senior declares he will pill the boy. A sudden blow strikes the boy's face.
He mocks the boy's extreme lack of strength.
A barrage of strikes lands as he demands resistance.
Narimitsu admits he saw the strikes coming. The boy's face is bruised and dotted.
The bully calls him pathetic while leaving. Narimitsu screams for him scalp. The senior demands the girl stay with him instead. A desperate no sounds as he assaults her. Naramitsu stares in wide-eyed shock. Naramitsu thinks that lack of courage is no excuse and nothing is more important than saving Momozaki right now.
His eyes burn with fiery determination.
Naramitsu delivers a powerful rapid strike. Momozaki watches with a surprised expression. The blonde bully shouts in disbelief. Despite the odds, Narimitsu stands firm as phantom flames erupt around him. Momozaki calls out to Rishima in a trembling voice. Naramitsu apologizes to Momozaki while hanging his head in regret. He laments his slow reaction, wishing he could have spared her from the ordeal.
She thanks Narimitsu, telling him he looked cool when he finally came to her rescue.
Narimitsu stammers in surprise, realizing she used his first name.
Okise asks if the boy thinks he's tough as a menacing presence looms.
The angry leader lunges forward, vowing to kill him. Narimitsu declares that he will no longer be afraid. The attacker launches a vicious swing. Narimitsu effortlessly avoids the incoming strike.
He counters with a powerful dunge.
Okise screams an insult while Narimitsu resolves to save others.
Naramitsu resolves to use his power as much as necessary.
The bully leader lies defeated.
Naramitsu calls Mai and urges her to leave immediately as they run away. Kishimura stops and stares at the fallen leader. Kishimura questions if that boy was truly Narimitsu. The pair stops to catch their breath. Naramitsu suggests they are safe and that Okise won't follow them.
Mai softly speaks Narimitsu's name.
Mai points out they are holding hands, causing Narimitsu to panic and apologize while she laughs.
She tells him she doesn't mind holding hands.
Mai admits her heart started racing a little bit. A blushing Narimitsu stammers out another apology. Mai tells him to stop panicking after taking down the school's top delinquent. She hands him a drink and tells him to be proud like a hero. Narimitsu accepts the drink in silence.
Mai waves goodbye, announcing she is almost home as she runs off.
Mai wears a gentle, knowing smile. Narimitsu offers a quiet, confused thanks. He realizes that his body is in intense pain, unlike in a game.
He notes his body is out of shape and his arms are swelling from the fight.
Narimitsu decides that he never wants to fight again.
A loud roar sounds as a motorcycle rushes past him.
A van screeches to a sentinel. Narimitsu is suddenly surrounded by a gang of bikers. A massive group of thugs surrounds him.
The blonde leader in red praises his reaction after ordering his men to run him over.
Narimitsu asks the man what he wants.
He explains he came to see the person who defeated his underling Okise.
Narimitsu asks if this is about reputation, but the leader notes that Okise was actually quite strong.
He menacingly decides that the boy is worth breaking since he beat Okise.
He complains that everyone else he fights ends up hospitalized much too quickly.
The blonde leader swings his weapon while demanding to be entertained.
He screams Narimitsu's name with an intense glowing gaze.
He boasts that every opponent he faces ends up hospitalized immediately.
He invites the boy to help cure his boredom.
Narimitsu recoils in terror as a lethal strike narrowly misses him.
He notes the attacker possesses absolutely no hint of hesitation.
He realizes a direct hit would have been catastrophic.
Narimitsu scrambles away.
The blonde man enjoys seeing strong fighters spit blood and collapse.
His face contorts with a dark hunger to see more violence. Narimitsu is overwhelmed by the man's terrifying bloodlust. A sharp, metallic clang sounds against the pavement.
The leader gloats about how much he loves beating strong opponents.
He explains how he enjoys asserting his dominance over others.
He mocks those who are clearly beneath his level.
He asks if the feeling of being overpowered is great.
Narimitsu desperately wishes he could stop the constant fighting.
A sudden, sharp realization strikes the blue-haired boy. He realizes that trying to run away is completely pointless.
A long shot captures the tense standoff between the two.
He knows the leader will catch him immediately if he flees. The attacker leaps through the air with his pipe raised high.
Narimitsu accepts that he has no other choice but to fight.
He resolves to go all out and meet the attack head-on.
He throws a punch, determined to take the leader down.
The blonde leader dodges with a smirk, noting the boy's impressive speed. He is surprised that someone actually managed to dodge his strike.
A powerful kick sends Narimitsu reeling from the impact.
The leader warns him to be ready for an immediate counterattack.
Narimitsu falls as the man promises he will live to regret this.
A low groan escapes Narimitsu as he clutches his injured chest.
The leader raises his weapon, declaring that this is the end.
A swift, heavy whoosh cuts the air.
Narimitsu barely blocks the crushing downward blow with his arm.
A sharp, painful crack echoes through the quiet street.
The blonde man claims it is over, but Narimitsu refuses to yield.
He mocks the boy for still being able to stand.
Narimitsu fears that the next hit will leave him unable to move.
He tells himself to stop taking hits and channel his game incense.
He visualizes his true identity as the demon god king.
He vows that he will not lose to someone like this.
A fiery aura erupts as Narimitsu prepares a new assault.
He launches into a series of rapid, high-speed strikes. A loud, sharp thwack sounds as a blow connects.
Narimitsu delivers a high kick that catches his opponent off guard.
The leader catches the leg, acknowledging that the boy isn't bad.
They exchange a flurry of blows in a chaotic blur.
Narimitsu lands a heavy, direct strike on the blonde man.
He resolves to push through the pain and end the fight.
The leader is stunned by the force of the counterattack. The blonde biker leader laughs while asking if the boy recognizes him.
Narimitsu identifies the man as the leader of the local delinquents. Surrounded by green flames, Agawa is named the leader of a biker gang.
Narimitsu recalls the man's reputation for turning opponents into a bloody mess.
He notes that the biker leader has nearly killed several people.
Narimitsu observes that every local thug knows the biker leader.
The blonde leader laughs maniacally at the boy.
Senji dismisses the biker's fame, telling Narimitsu there is no need to remember him.
The white-haired man claims everyone in the area is beneath his level.
Enraged, the blonde biker leader stands ready for combat. Agawa lunges forward with a scream, demanding his opponent stop talking immediately. A sharp, high-pitched cry sounds as a purple energy slash strikes.
A loud, crushing crash sounds as a massive blow lands. Narimitsu watches the sudden display of overwhelming force in total shock.
Senji stands triumphantly over the fallen biker, wreathed in a purple aura.
He looks down at the defeated man with cold indifference.
Senji remarks that the biker leader's notorious strength was quite disappointing. Narimitsu thanks the white-haired man for saving his life.
Senji tells the boy not to mention it.
He explains that eliminating the biker was merely a step toward his goal.
The mysterious man turns to Narimitsu with a knowing smile.
Narimitsu is shocked when the man mentions his private gaming handle.
Senji flatly states he has no intention of answering how he knows that secret.
The blue-haired boy stands firm, refusing to move until he receives an answer. Senji tells the boy he has no choice while pulling out a photo.
He reveals a photograph of Narimitsu's sister and father.
Senji threatens the safety of Narimitsu's family if he refuses to comply.
Flaming aura erupts around the boy as he questions the threat.
Senji promises no harm will come if the boy cooperates quietly.
The white-haired man wears a satisfied, sinister smile.
Senji claims to know the reason why the boy obtained his power. Narimitsu is stunned by the revelation about his body's transformation. He demands to know if the man truly understands what happened to him.
Resigned to the threat, Narimitsu agrees to follow the mysterious man.
Senji looks at the boy with a predatory, red-eyed gaze.
Senji gestures toward a luxury car and tells Narimitsu to get her.
They speed through the city's bright and busy nightlife district. The boy is awestruck as he gazes at the vibrant city lights from the car.
They arrive at a building that the boy considers a shady-looking club.
Senji dismisses the boy's concerns about the club's appearance.
He informs Narimitsu that the entire club is their private property.
Narimitsu follows him into the building, feeling confused. They reach a set of double doors marked as a VIP area.
Senji leads the way as they enter the inner sanctum.
A group of mysterious associates awaits them inside the moon.
Senji introduces the boy to the organization known as Vermilion Shadow.
Narimitsu is formally welcomed into the group's secret headquarters.
A stern man in a suit watches them with a dark gaze.
A purple-haired woman smiles as Senji stands with his allies.
Senji formally welcomes Narimitsu into the ranks of the Vermilion Shadow.
The white-haired man notes that the organization's abbreviation is simply VS.
Senji explains that they are an underground group tasked with solving various societal problems. Narimitsu stands with his back turned, absorbing the weight of the situation.
Viewing the room through the man's legs, Senji clarifies that they operate through illegal means.
Narimitsu is visibly shaken as he repeats the phrase underground group to himself.
The purple-haired woman observes the boy with a playful, curious hum. Approaching Narimitsu with a sly grin, Hisaki asks if he is truly Rushima Narimitsu. Narimitsu recoils in a blushing panic as a sudden, quick gasp escapes him.
Hisaki notes he looks incredibly weak and wonders if his reputation for strength is genuine.
She suddenly grabs his jacket, remarking that appearances are often deceiving in their line of work.
Hisaki laughs heartily while Narimitsu cowers and shields himself in the background.
She leans in close to the boy, calling his terrified reaction quite cute.
A sudden sharp click sounds as the woman draws a concealed handgun.
Surrounded by a shimmering pink aura, Hisaki pulls the trigger with a malicious smile. Narimitsu's eyes glow with orange light as he barely evades the lethal projectile. A small, smoking bullet hole appears in the wall as the shot narrowly misses.
Narimitsu takes a defensive stance as the woman keeps her weapon leveled at him.
He is paralyzed with terror, realizing that the weapon she used was a real gun. Wreathed in energy, Hisaki praises the boy for having such an impressive reaction time.
She stares down the barrel of her firearm with a dark, predatory gaze.
A massive, shadowy hand suddenly lunges forward to seize the woman's arm.
A loud, sharp crack sounds as the giant man intercepts the dangerous weapon.
The stern man in the suit stops Hisaki by grabbing her wrist mid-motion.
He calls out the woman's name, Hisaki, with an air of cold authority.
The executive asks if she understands the consequences if Narimitsu hadn't dodged that bullet.
Hisaki looks back at her superior with an unbothered, casual expression. She gleefully suggests that if he had failed, he would simply be a fresh corpse. Narimitsu realizes with horror that the people surrounding him are completely insane.
He trembles as the two powerful figures clash, their overwhelming auras filling the room. Senji remains seated in the background, observing the violent outburst with total calm.
The executive snaps his fingers and declares that Hisaki's reckless behavior is not to be praised.
Narimitsu wipes sweat from his brow, noting that the man's intervention actually saved him.
Senji leans forward, demanding that Rishima Narimitsu begin to understand his current situation.
Raising a hand dramatically, the white-haired man begins to explain the reason for their recruitment.
Senji asks the boy if he is familiar with the local power known as the Sengu Group. Narimitsu reflects on the Sengu Group, a massive corporate conglomerate with millions of employees. He knows there isn't a single location in the entire country beyond their reach.
He continues his internal monologue, noting that every sector is influenced by the Sengu Group.
Senji smiles thinly, acknowledging that the boy is surprisingly well informed about the organization.
Narimitsu is caught off guard, realizing the man already knew his level of knowledge.
He mentions that the high school he attends is actually a private institution affiliated with Sengo.
Senji mentions the hospital where Narimitsu was recently treated for his injuries. A shot of the hospital exterior appears as Senji notes it is also Sengu affiliated. Narimitsu stares in silent shock, realizing how deep the organization's roots truly go.
Senji confirms that the Vermilion Shadow organization is part of that same corporate web.
He explains that they are actually a secret elite unit within the Sengu Group. Senji introduces the purple-haired woman and the stern man as high-ranking executives.
Shadows of numerous operatives appear as he notes their total membership exceeds 100.
Narimitsu is overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the secret world he has entered. Senji stares intently at the boy, asking why he thinks they are sharing these secrets.
The white-haired man informs Narimitsu that he is officially becoming a member of the organization today.
The blue-haired boy looks down in defeated silence.
Senji notes the boy looks like he wants to refuse his offer.
He reminds Naramitsu that the Sengu group is responsible for the threats against him.
The white-haired man warns what will happen if he chooses to refuse.
A foreboding thought bubble mentions a potential worst-case scenario. Senji stares with glowing red eyes, making his dark intentions clear.
The threat concludes with the chilling promise of killing his family.
Narimitsu is frozen in a state of absolute wide-eyed horror.
He trembles while asking why they would go to such lengths for him.
Surrounded by a dark aura, he questions the true reason behind their persistence. A quiet, hesitant sound escapes the boy as he struggles to speak. Naramitsu suddenly screams his refusal as a powerful dark energy erupts around him.
He declares that he does not want to become their comrade.
The white-haired man listens with a calm, contemplative expression. Senji begins to explain the Sengu group's interest in the boy.
He reveals it is because Narimitsu is a top ranker in the game Desperate Hellfire.
Senji identifies him by his legendary gaming title, the Demon God King. Narimitsu is completely stunned to have his secret identity revealed.
The mysterious leader stares intensely, knowing he has the boy's full attention.
Naramitsu asks if the Sengu group is responsible for his new powers. A massive, flaming Demon God King avatar looms behind the terrified boy.
He confesses that he has no idea what is happening to town.
Senji remains silent, letting the weight of the revelation sink in.
He admits he was skeptical of the boy's strength at first.
Senji points out how Narimitsu dodged a point-blank gunshot from Hisaki.
He states that such an incredible feat is impossible for a normal human.
Naramitsu demands to know what was done to his physical body. He recalls his recent hospitalization and suspects an illegal procedure took place. Senji flatly states he is not allowed to answer that specific question.
The purple-haired woman and the large man watch as the terms are set. He promises that achieving results within the group will eventually lead to answers.
Senji calls him by his gaming initials, telling him to yield for now.
He offers a personal guarantee for his family's safety if he joins.
Naramitsu's fist shakes with a mix of fury and helplessness.
A deep, dark shadow falls over the boy's face as he deliberates.
Reluctantly, the blue-haired boy finally states that he understands the situation.
Senji smiles thinly, declaring the matter to be officially settled. He stands up to introduce his elite executives to the newest recruit. He names the woman as Hisaki and the silent giant as Raylan.
The white-haired man identifies himself as the leader of the VS organization.
He reveals his true name is Serizawa Shin.
Shin expresses high expectations for the boy's future performance as an operative.
The scene shifts to the exterior of a bright high school building. A heavy, weary sigh escapes Narimitsu as he walks through the hall. He enters his classroom, lamenting that yesterday was a complete and total disaster. Memories of Kishimura, Okise, Agawa, and the VS executives haunt his thoughts.
Narimitsu fears his body is reaching its limit as he begins crying.
He suddenly stops at his desk, alerted by a strange presence nearby. The boy looks around the classroom with a sharp, surprised expression. A classmate approaches Narimitsu at his desk, excitedly asking if the rumors about him beating up the school bully are true.
Naramitsu wonders how the news spread so quickly as he looks out at his entire classroom gathered around him in awe.
Another student slaps Narimitsu on the back, calling him a total powerhouse for his incredible performance yesterday. The classmates gossip about how satisfying it is to know the bully finally got what he deserved. Mai approaches the blue-haired boy with a warm smile, noting that the delinquents didn't even dare to show up today.
Narimitsu blushes as he receives the first genuine praise he has ever experienced from his peers.
As the sun sets, Mai walks alongside Narimitsu and remarks that he has officially become the most popular guy in school.
Rubbing his neck awkwardly, the boy admits that the sudden change in everyone's attitude feels a bit overwhelming. Mai explains that since the delinquents held so much power, most students were constantly living in total fear of being targeted.
She looks at him kindly, suggesting that his victory is the reason everyone's opinion shifted so drastically in a single day.
Narimitsu smiles bashfully to himself, wondering if his actions truly had such a positive impact on the school.
His heart skips a beat as Mai suddenly leans in very close to his face.
Surrounded by a shimmering aura of flowers, the orange-haired girl looks at him with pure, glowing admiration.
Naramitsu stammers out a thank you while female students in the background whisper about how handsome he has become.
The boy's attention is pulled away as students begin gossiping about a mysterious man waiting outside the gate.
Narimitsu lets out a sudden, sharp gah as he spots Serizawa Shin leaning against a luxury car nearby.
Shin notices the boy and waves him over with a cool, knowing smirk.
The white-haired leader tells Naramitsu to get into the car because the organization has urgent work to do.
Naramitsu turns to Mai with an apologetic expression, explaining that he won't be able to walk home with her today.
Mai looks on with a confused tilt of her head, wondering why he is leaving so suddenly.
The boy offers a quick wave, promising to see her again tomorrow morning.
A crowd of students watches in stunned silence as Narimitsu climbs into the back of the flashy black vehicle. Mai stands frozen at the gate, staring after the car and wondering about the identity of the white-haired stranger.
Settling into the leather seat, Narimitsu asks Shin to please stop picking him up in such an attention-grabbing car.
A heavy silence fills the vehicle as they drive away from the school grounds.
Narimitsu looks down at his bag, hesitantly asking for clarification on what this work actually entails. Shin mentions their destination is Kinjicho, which the boy recognizes as the famous downtown district nearby.
The leader explains that a certain group has been causing significant trouble for the local business owners in that area.
He identifies the targets as the Yaguma faction, a violent militant group consisting of former Yakuza members. With a dark, red-eyed gaze, Shin declares that the Vermilion Shadow has been tossed with their total elimination. Narimitsu is visibly shaken, repeating the words former Yakuza members to himself in a terrified whisper.
Shin remains stone-faced, reiterating that their organization will handle the removal of the gang.
The blue-haired boy looks up with a sweating, worried expression as they arrive at their next location.
A single thought bubble asks why they have suddenly arrived at a hospital.
Standing before the massive medical facility, Narimitsu is told that this place is tied to several old grudges.
Shin dismisses the boys' concerns as they begin walking toward the main entrance. Narimitsu follows closely behind, still struggling to understand the purpose of this visit.
Looking back over his shoulder, the white-haired man tells the recruit to keep up and follow him inside.
They walk through the sterile, quiet halls of the hospital, passing by other patients and medical staff.
Shin stops in front of a specific room door and calmly announces that they have arrived at their destination.
The boy is filled with confusion, wondering about the identity of the person they are coming to see.
Shin explains that the man inside this room was the one who was brutally beaten by the Yaguma faction.
Opening the door, the leader introduces the man inside as both their current client and a victim of the gang's violence.
Narimitsu recoils in shock as he repeats the word victim, his eyes widening in horror.
A close-up shows the boy's dilated pupil as the reality of the situation begins to sink in.
They approach the bedside of a man whose head and hands are completely covered in thick white bandages.
Narimitsu stares at the patient, noting the severe bruising and the extent of the man's traumatic injuries.
Shin speaks to the bandaged man, identifying him as Koki Sonohashi.
The injured man struggles to look up, weakly asking who exactly has come to visit him.
Standing firmly by the bed, Shin looks down at the patient and assures him that they are not his enemies.
Shin explains they accepted the man's request and introduces himself.
Sonohashi lies bandaged in bed as Shin mentions the request.
The white-haired leader asks for confirmation regarding the mission.
The injured man confirms, blaming the Yakuma faction for his state.
Sonohashi mentions being told a special department would handle his case.
Shin offers a firm promise to fulfill the man's request.
He asks for a detailed explanation of the current situation.
Reaching for his strength, the patient agrees to detail the events.
Sonohashi recalls his successful restaurant business in the busy Kinjicho district.
He explains how he eventually became a leader for the local community.
The bandaged man describes how he managed several branches through self-governance.
Narimitsu looks confused, struggling to understand the meaning of self-governance.
Sonohashi explains the area's ties to the underworld and its legal limitations.
Dark shadows loom as he mentions the Yakuma faction's recent arrival.
He recounts the gang's violent greed and their expansion into new territories.
The blue-haired boy looks visibly distressed by the victim's tragic story.
Sonohashi describes the gang's pattern of extortion and constant workplace harassment. He recalls trying to negotiate directly with the gang leader to stop.
The man looks down, gesturing to his broken and battered body.
He warns that many more businesses will suffer if nothing is done.
A quick buzzing vibration sounds from a phone sitting on the nightstand.
The device lights up, displaying an incoming call from an unknown number. Recognizing the caller as the gang leader, Shin orders him to answer.
Sonohashi shakily answers the phone while the two operatives watch closely.
A voice on the line complains about merchants refusing to pay up. The caller threatens to turn the restaurant owner into a public example.
Terrified, the man repeats the word example while sweat beads on his face.
The phone displays a new message notification from a girl named Mizuki.
The criminal reveals he has kidnapped the man's daughter to ensure compliance. A stark message warns that the girl will suffer a similar fate.
The voice asks if the district will finally pay their protection fees.
Sonohashi screams in absolute despair, demanding to know his daughter's status.
A cold shiver runs through him as he asks what happened.
Narimitsu reacts with shock, immediately begging to save the innocent girl. The desperate father lunges forward, grabbing the boy's jacket in a plea. Sonohashi weeps for Mizuki as a photo of the bound girl appears.
Narimitsu realizes the Yakuma faction has crossed an unforgivable line.
A horrifying image confirms that Mizuki has been blindfolded and kidnapped.
The boy's eyes widen with rage as he focuses on the victim. A dark aura erupts as he laments the girl's terrible current situation.
The grieving father pleads for the life of his only child.
Sonohashi begs through tears for them to rescue his daughter Mizuki.
Determined, Narimitsu stands before a rising fire, finding his resolve.
He declares that harming an innocent child is a line never to cross.
Dark silence follows as they promise the man a resolution. With eyes glowing with fury, Narimitsu vows to rescue the girl. The duo arrives in the neon-soaked streets of the Kinjicho district.
Moving through the crowd, the blue-haired boy prepares for the mission.
They locate their destination, a crowded building known as Club Definite Grid.
Nearby, a man checks identification at the entrance of the lively club.
Shin notes that Naramitsu is surprisingly proactive about the mission, which is helpful.
Naramitsu clarifies he's not doing it for the organization, but to help Sonohashi's daughter. With a determined look, the blue-haired boy declares his goal is to save Mizuki-chan.
Shin looks at the recruit in silence as they move through the busy district.
The white-haired leader notes that the boy's attitude is exactly as he expected.
He explains that the kidnapping of the girl was intended as a brutal warning.
Naramitsu warns that the hostage will only suffer more if they leave the situation as is.
Shin reveals that several Yakuma strongholds have been identified right here in the area.
The boy realizes there's a high probability the hostage is being held at one of these locations. Shin explains the gang prefers using buildings that are already under their direct control.
He mentions that Hisaki and Ryun are currently heading to different strongholds with other collaborators.
The plan is to find the hostage by sweeping all of the gang's bases simultaneously. A vibrant, rhythmic thumping sounds out from the busy establishment ahead.
Naramitsu is overwhelmed by the club atmosphere while Shin identifies Yakuma as the manager. Looking at the rowdy crowd, the leader remarks on the poor quality of the customers. Naramitsu is shocked to see they even prepared a forged ID to help him pass the age check.
Shin explains that the Sengu group provides whatever support is necessary to complete the mission.
Two shady thugs watch the newcomers from across the floor with suspicious expressions.
A loud, rowdy shout of "Let's go" sounds out as patrons party on the dance floor. Shin finds the environment expectedly noisy as they try to navigate the crowded room.
The white-haired man pauses with a questioning look as he senses something behind them.
He watches a sudden, tense interaction unfolding just a few feet away. The vibrant club scene continues in a blur of neon lights and dancing figures.
Naramitsu lets out a sharp gwa as he is suddenly knocked to the ground by a thug.
A large, curly-haired man looms over the boy, mocking him for causing trouble. The smaller thug mentions that the boy's movements look suspicious from a distance. He holds up a small baggie, claiming he found illegal drugs on the boy's person. Naramitsu realizes the criminals planted the evidence on him and protests the setup. The buzz-cut thug feigns ignorance while mocking the boy's desperate explanation. He offers to overlook the situation if the boy agrees to their demands. Grabbing Naramitsu's collar, the thug demands that he leave his wallet and all his belongings behind. He laughs at the boy, calling him a pathetic brat who is too young for this place.
Naramitsu remains silent, his eyes obscured by shadows as a dark energy begins to search.
The larger thug is offended by the boy's quiet defiance and asks what he just said.
Standing up, Naramitsu looks them in the eye and declares that they are rotten to the core.
Enraged by the insult, the thug yells out and throws a violent punch at the boy.
Naramitsu easily dodges and strikes back, satisfied to have reached the back of the shop. Wreathed in a terrifying aura of fire, Naramitsu leaves the thugs trembling in absolute fear. The blue-haired boy looks down at them with an intense and unwavering focus.
With glowing eyes, he sternly asks the remaining thug if he knows where Yakuma is.
The thugs are completely paralyzed by the overwhelming power the boy is radiating.
A massive surge of fiery energy erupts as Naramitsu repeats his demand for the boss's location. Terrified for his life, the buzz-cut man stammeringly starts to reveal where the manager is. Naramitsu is relieved to hear the target is just ahead and thanks the man.
A subtle, determined smirk appears on the boy's face as he prepares to move forward.
He notes that it would have been a disaster if the target had been at another base.
The boy offers a mock wave of thanks as he heads toward the back door.
The thug attempts a desperate sneak attack, screaming for the boy not to underestimate him.
Naramitsu delivers a swift and powerful counterattack that sends the man flying. He notes that he had no intention of hurting them until they decided to attack first. A sudden loud boom echoes as the man is hurled backward through the air by a powerful strike.
Naramitsu recoils in shock, his eyes widening as he witnesses the sheer force of his companion's power. Slumped against the hallway wall, the dark-haired man groans in pain while the blue-haired boy watches from a distance.
Weaved in a menacing purple aura, the white-haired leader looms over the fallen man and demands the location of the target.
Hurrying toward his partner, Naramitsu calls out to Serizawa to get his attention.
With a cold and piercing gaze, the white-haired man looks back and assures the boy that he is safe. Sheepishly rubbing the back of his head, Naramitsu offers a sincere apology for getting himself caught earlier. His expression quickly shifts to one of grim focus as he reveals that he managed to obtain some critical information. Pointing toward the end of the corridor, the boy explains that the manager, Yakuma, is located further ahead. Serizawa acknowledges the report and suggests they proceed to ask the man for answers directly. A heavy, expectant silence hangs between the two operatives as they prepare to move into the heart of the facility. Naramitsu playfully asks if his partner was worried about him, but the leader bluntly denies it.
On the floor, the battered thug reaches for a glowing phone while letting out a pained, guttural groan.
Sounding desperate, the man reports an emergency into his device, warning that an outsider has infiltrated the staff area.
A series of steady, rhythmic taps sounds out as the duo approaches a door clearly marked for staff members only. Narimitsu pauses for a brief moment of reflection, his resolve hardening for the inevitable confrontation ahead.
Serizawa asks if he is ready as they are suddenly met by a large group of hostile and armed thugs.
Focused intently on the threat ahead, the white-haired leader stares down the mob blocking their path.
A long-haired man in a suit laughs at their arrival, identifying them as the intruders who caused the commotion.
Mocking the pair, he declares that negotiations are entirely unnecessary and prepares to initiate a violent struggle.
With a rowdy, aggressive shout, the entire group of criminals charges forward to overwhelm the two intruders.
Narimitsu tenses up as he realizes several of the attackers are wielding sharp, dangerous blades.
A quick and sharp swish sounds as a thug swings a heavy wooden bat directly at the boy's head.
Narrowly dodging a sword strike, the blue-haired boy clicks his tongue in frustration at the mounting pressure.
Realizing the severity of the ambush, he acknowledges that the current situation is becoming increasingly dangerous.
A thunderous boom rings out as a large, muscular thug throws a massive and violent punch at Narimitsu.
The boy is sent sliding back, letting out a pained grunt as he struggles against the overwhelming number of enemies.
Surrounded by criminals with varied weapons, the blue-haired boy tries to find an opening to counter.
He stands his ground against the closing mob, desperately trying to calculate his next move to survive.
Effortlessly kicking a man into the air, Serizawa reminds the boy of the life-or-death battles he once fought in the game.
He encourages Narimitsu to remember his past as the strongest ranker, the legendary warrior known as the Demon God King.
The realization strikes the boy, and he begins to compare the current life-or-death struggle to the familiar mechanics of a game.
Narimitsu finds a new sense of resolve, believing he can move his physical body just as effectively as he did in the virtual world.
The thugs continue to laugh mockingly at him, their voices joining together in a chorus of derision and overconfidence. One criminal scoffs at the boy's comparison to a game, calling him stupid for having such a delusional thought. Narimitsu focuses inward, recalling the intense reflexes and control skills he perfected in the VR game Desperate Hellfire.
With glowing eyes, he understands that a calm and accurate assessment of the battle is his only path to victory.
He systematically counts the enemies in front of him, noting that one is armed with a knife while two carry blunt weapons.
He quickly identifies the fourth attacker as being completely unarmed, marking him as a lower priority threat. Analyzing their movement patterns, he determines the knife user is fast while the bat wielders are slow and predictable. Enraged by his quiet muttering, a thug yells that the boy is creeping them out as the mob closes in.
Letting out a calm and steady breath, Narimitsu tells himself to remain composed and not panic in the heat of combat.
He focuses entirely on keeping his thoughts calm, knowing that only then will he be able to win. A massive boom erupts as Narimitsu unleashes a devastating, fiery circular kick that sends several attackers flying. Another powerful boom sounds as he strikes through the remaining crowd with incredible speed and supernatural force. Cloaked in a terrifying aura of intense flames, the blue-haired boy delivers a final and crushing blow to his foes. Watching calmly from the side, Serizawa observes the boy's sudden display of overwhelming combat prowess with quiet interest. With a confident smirk and glowing eyes, Narimitsu declares that he will not lose if the rules are the same as the game. A long and exhausted sigh escapes him as he stands amidst the unconscious thugs littering the locker room floor. Sending the final standing attacker flying with a powerful kick, Serizawa offers a brief and rare word of praise for the boy's performance. Narimitsu expresses his gratitude to Serizawa for the combat advice.
Serizawa commands that they quickly eliminate the remaining hostiles.
Narimitsu accepts the command with fierce determination and glowing eyes.
He launches a fiery kick, sending an opponent flying.
Serizawa delivers a devastating punch wreathed in purple aura.
A dark-haired man groans as he watches his allies fall. He realizes he cannot let the intruders reach his boss. Narimitsu catches sight of the target and shouts the name Yaguma.
The man urgently reaches for a control panel on the wall.
He slams his hand onto the button to seal the room.
He shouts that the manager is just beyond the closing barrier.
Narimitsu realizes his target is within his immediate reach. Serizawa clicks his tongue while fending off several attackers simultaneously.
He orders Narimitsu to proceed while he handles the mob. The boy enthusiastically acknowledges the order and charges forward. Narimitsu's eyes widen as he senses the closing window of opportunity.
A group of thugs mocks him, swearing he won't pass go.
Narimitsu calculates that fighting them will cause him to miss the shutter. He resolves to take a risky gamble to reach the door.
The criminals rush forward to intercept the boy's desperate charge.
He decides to force his way through the line without stopping. The thugs cry out in shock as he slides under the shutter. Narimitsu breathes a sigh of relief for making it through.
He briefly pauses to wonder if his companion is safe behind.
He realizes that Serizawa's immense power makes any concern unnecessary.
The blue-haired boy turns away from the shutter to explore ahead.
He determines that he must capture Yaguma before he can escape. His resolve hardens to prevent the manager from fleeing the scene. He notes that meeting back up with Serizawa must wait.
He cautiously begins to peek through a heavy door ahead. The boy reacts with shock to what he sees within.
He reminds himself to pin down the target immediately upon sight. He is bewildered by the sudden change in environment.
He questions why such a luxurious VIP room exists here.
Narimitsu steps into the opulent, dimly lit room with caution.
A man holding a cigar remarks on his curiosity about the intruder.
He scoffs at Narimitsu, calling him a weak and pathetic brat.
The man is identified as the Yaguma faction leader, Kohei Yaguma.
Narimitsu grits his teeth and confirms he found his target.
Yaguma confirms his identity with a smug and arrogant smirk. Narimitsu clenches his fist tightly in an outburst of anger. He shouts that he is there to rescue the captured Mizuki.
Yaguma feigns ignorance and asks who Mizuki is.
The leader makes a face of mock confusion.
He suddenly claims to remember the person the boy mentioned. A sharp strike grazes Narimitsu's cheek with incredible speed.
A thunderous boom echoes as the attack misses and hits behind.
Narimitsu stares in disbelief at the fresh wound on his face. Yaguma asks if he means the girl tied up behind Haido.
Narimitsu calls out for Mizuki in panic as the short-haired faction leader, Yaguma, pins the brown-haired girl to the floor with his foot while warning the boy that if he does not want her hurt, he should stay back.
The leader commands the self-proclaimed hero of justice not to come any closer.
Scratched and frustrated, Narimitsu groans while Mizuki lets out a muffled cry from beneath Yaguma's heavy boot. Yaguma calls the boy a bastard and asks if he is working for Sonohashi while Mizuki watches with wide, tearful eyes.
He explains that if he allows the girl to be taken back, his faction would lose all its prestige. Stepping away from the bound girl, Yaguma offers to let the boy leave for the moment.
Looming over the boy, Yaguma leans in close and mockingly asks why he does not just head home.
A cold sweat breaks out on Narimitsu's face as he struggles to find his words. Mizuki lets out another muffled groan from the floor as Yaguma continues to taunt the silent boy.
The image of the terrified, gagged girl is reflected clearly in Narimitsu's trembling eye. Shaking off his fear, Narimitsu's eyes ignite with resolve as he vows to remain brave and save her.
He tells himself that he is going to save Mizuki no matter what because he promised her he would.
Yaguma looks down with a smug, upside-down smirk.
Narimitsu shouts with renewed defiance that no matter how much he is threatened, he will definitely take Mizuki home. The faction leader reacts with a condescending smile, asking if that is really the case.
Wreathed in a sinister green aura, Yaguma calls the boy a little brat.
Narimitsu tenses his muscles and takes a determined fighting stance.
Surrounded by flickering green energy, Yaguma flatly declares his intent to kill the boy.
The leader stands with casual confidence as his power continues to flare. He repeats his insult, calling Narimitsu a damn brat.
A dark screen signals the awakening of a great power as the scene shifts.
Cloaked in intense orange flames, Narimitsu charges forward with a powerful strike. He reminds himself to move calmly, believing that with his current power, there is no way he can fail as Yaguma watches him approach.
Narimitsu swings a fiery fist, but Yaguma shifts his weight and avoids the blow.
The blue-haired boy follows up with a series of aggressive burning attacks.
Yaguma counters with a sudden green-tinted strike that catches Narimitsu by surprise. A spray of blood erupts as Narimitsu gasps in shock from the unexpected power of the counterattack.
Standing over the fallen boy, Yaguma scoffs and calls him too soft.
He warns Narimitsu not to lump him in with the common street punks he usually fights.
Yaguma delivers a brutal stomp as Narimitsu grunts in pain on the floor.
The leader continues to press his foot down, threatening to kill the boy if he continues.
Yaguma admits the boy has more guts than he originally anticipated.
Narimitsu clenches his fist tightly, his eyes glowing with fire as he refuses to lose.
Mizuki looks on in desperation, realizing the boy is in grave danger. Narimitsu roars that he will defeat the man and save Mizuki as his aura explodes into a pillar of fire.
He launches a flurry of burning punches, forcing Yaguma to click his tongue in annoyance.
With a sudden upward motion, Narimitsu delivers a fiery kick that makes the leader grunt in surprise. He maintains his intense focus, his body wreathed in a swirling vortex of orange energy.
Yaguma lets out a sharp laugh as he continues to engage in the struggle.
The two clash violently, their opposing auras creating a chaotic display of green and orange energy.
An ominous thought lingers that even after taking such a hit, the battle is far from over.
Yaguma suddenly seizes Narimitsu by the face, his green energy overpowering the boy's flames. He sneers at the boy, asking how he can still maintain his bravado in such a state. Blood gushes from Narimitsu's nose as he lets out a cry of pain while Yaguma warns him not to get carried away and prepares a metal bat.
Grinning wickedly, Yaguma swings the heavy bat and shouts his intent to smash a home run into the boy.
Dazed and bleeding, Narimitsu realizes a direct hit from the weapon will be fatal. Yaguma brings the bat down with crushing force, declaring that the fight is finished. Narimitsu barely manages to dodge the strike as the bat whistles past his head. Infuriated by the miss, Yaguma demands to know what is wrong. He continues to swing the metal bat wildly, mockingly asking the boy if he intends to fight back at all. Naramitsu attempts to close the distance, determined to find a way inside the faction leader's guard.
A pained groan escapes the boy as he struggles to maintain his focus under the heavy pressure.
With a sudden boo sound, Yaguma swings the metal bat wreathed in a sinister green aura. Narimitsu dodges beneath the sweeping strike with a sharp, desperate shout. His feet scramble across the floor as he fights to regain his positioning in the chaotic brawl.
Letting out a thunderous roar, Yaguma continues his relentless assault with the heavy weapon. The green-tinted bat carves a glowing arc through the air, narrowly missing the retreating boy.
Naramitsu senses an opening as he notes that the man's stance is momentarily broken.
Looming over him, Yaguma mockingly warns the boy that he is paying far too much attention to the bat. Narimitsu's eyes widen in terror as he realizes he has been lured into a trap.
He gasps in panic as the leader suddenly seizes him by the collar.
Yaguma delivers a brutal headbutt that connects with a sickening crack, screaming for the boy to die.
Naramitsu is sent reeling backward as a spray of blood erupts from the impact.
His vision begins to blur as he struggles to track the movements of the looming faction leader.
Falling into despair, the boy wonders if winning was truly impossible for someone like him as his consciousness fades.
Mizuki watches from a distance, bound and helpless, as her protector finally seems to fall. Tears stream down the girl's face as she lets out a muffled, desperate cry from behind her gag. Within the depths of his mind, the boy's orange eyes snap open with a sudden flare of resolve.
Floating in a starry void, he questions why he is already giving up when he has not yet lost.
Sliding his foot back into a solid stance, he recalls his experiences within the game Desperate Hellfire.
Narimitsu prepares himself, resolving that he must act as the demon god king would.
A fierce smirk returns to his face as a massive aura of fire erupts around him once more.
Yaguma is frozen in shock as Naramitsu roars that he will fight until the very moment he dies.
With his eyes glowing with intense heat, the boy shouts a defiant promise that he will not fail.
Narimitsu launches a crushing counterpunch wreathed in flames directly into the leader's face. He finishes his declaration with a roar, swearing that he will never give up on saving Mizuki.